Hello, and you are listening to Squash Radio. This is a brand new podcast that wants to bring the inside of squash to life by serving up the best stories. This whole station was a little experiment in itself. We are pushing this even further by testing new ways of getting you these stories. We now have short 5 to 10 minute video recaps available online. We are trying shorter interviews, capturing people in their moment, and coming up, we are teaming up with some people to do some on-site coverage of events, since we can't be everywhere. But here's where we need some help. We are still very small, but have big dreams. Can you help us get the word out, spread the news? Small things could help, like do you have a website and want to embed Squash Radio? We can share a simple code and boom! Squash Radio can be right there with new episodes automatically downloaded. Or support us on social media. Any of these things would be extremely appreciated. Want to get in touch with us? Well, there are lots of ways. Any of the social media messaging apps, or email us at squashradio@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we hope you enjoy. What about this?
This call is being recorded.
Welcome back, squash fans, to Squash Radio, and I've been your host, Connor O'Malley. So as I've been saying, the experimenting on Squash Radio continues. And we're very excited to bring you a different kind of show today, where we've partnered up with another passionate squash player who is an extraordinary player and coach to help deliver some on-the-ground coverage from around the country. So we are thrilled to be teaming up with the one and only Richard Millman. And before we kick it off, I'm going to turn it over to him quickly.
Hi squash fans, this is Richard Millman, and I am delighted to have the opportunity to be working with Squash Radio. Today I am bringing you the first of what I hope will be many stories about personalities, clubs, events, and histories that are the less well-known but powerful fabric of our American squash tradition. The story I am bringing you today is in many ways the story of competitive Southern squash, its growing reputation, and its continuing positive effect on the growth of the game. My own story in the United States is inextricably linked to this one, and so it brings me great pleasure to share the story with you, in celebration of what I believe to be an exciting future. I hope you enjoy it and perhaps are even motivated to share your own local stories. Here it is.
So to any squash player, that's an extremely familiar sound at any squash tournament. A crowd is gathered enjoying some great matches and just hanging out. Well, this is the scene at the Piedmont Driving Club Invitational in Atlanta. And like many other great events, there's always the squash action, the social events, making new friends and catching up with old ones. But beyond the squash, there's also many ways you can enjoy these events too. And this is where we join Richard, speaking to another seasoned squash player about his experiences.
One of the things that I have been interested in your journey is the way that you develop relationships with people, not just in the squash world. And in particular, I'm thinking about the times that you've come down to Atlanta, and there's a particular restaurant that you've been to. Perhaps you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, well, you're talking about Waffle House. I wrote a Will's World about it just because I had been going there for a few years, and I seem to be there with the same crew at nighttime. And there's something about all the Waffle Houses which is true, is they always greet you with a big hello and a smile. But as these guys in particular started to get to know me, by the way, it's store number 34. I know that number now well. They really, I don't know, we just bonded, and we sort of joked and teased, and now we have hugs and, you know, affection, and actually I get texts from them. So it's really sort of an extended, like, little kind of family. I know what's going on with them personally, and they know what's going on with me. And there's something that I really like about having I love the squash community, but I also like the separation where I'm going into a new place and they don't know what squash is. They could care less that I'm good at it. And it's just an opportunity to meet somebody local and get to know them. And I'm not quite sure why I like that so much, but I really like it. It's something that stimulates me, it turns me on.
For those of you who don't know Will Carlin, he's been an amazing ambassador of the sport for decades, playing at the national and professional level representing Team USA. He's written a column in Squash Magazine for the past 20 years. He's also served as master of ceremonies for several professional squash events around the country, and he does all of that on the side. For his day job, he is the founder and CEO of Speakable, which is a company that works with organizations working on high-stakes presentations to guide them through the process and deliver results. He's also an adjunct professor at NYU. Will is like so many of the other fascinating people you'll meet in squash world. You just never know who they are until you ask. We join back in with Richard, who sits down with 3 other people who have strongly contributed to this event and share more of the background about the PDC Invitational.
Richard Millman here for Squash Radio, and I'm here at the Piedmont Driving Club at the Piedmont Driving Club Invitational, and I'm here with Lisa Tier, Director of Rackets, Ahmed Hamza, who's the head professional, and emeritus professional Aladdin Mitha. First of all, I'm going to ask Lisa, what does the tournament mean to Piedmont Driving Club, and what is your experience of it? You're playing yourself today, and everybody's having a lot of fun.
Well, this tournament's been a great tradition over the years. It brings together the community around Atlanta and from clubs that we share the same affinity for squash. Everybody's great friends. The competition is friendly. The social is fabulous. And we've just grown a great program since 2009 when the club renovated the courts, having 2 doubles and 2 singles. The doubles has grown tremendously, and we have a huge number of our members playing and getting along well together, all levels. And it's been a fabulous addition to the club.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lisa. Ahmed, you've been here for a little while now, and you've certainly seen a number of these Piedmont Driving Club Invitationals. What do they mean to you, and what's your experience of them being like?
Like, I came here in 2011, and I didn't know about the PDC Invitational, and I started working. I started like my first Invitational in 2012. I had about 60 players, and today in 2017, I have over like 100 players. They're coming from everywhere: California, Chattanooga, Kentucky, from all over the country. And I'm so glad, like people are having fun playing all these matches, good spirit, and looking forward for next year.
Fantastic. I was lucky enough to work with Ahmed for a number of years, and I know what a wonderful player he is. And I've just seen him on court in a doubles match with Lisa, actually. And there was a lot of energy, a lot of fun, and it's a great tradition here at the Piedmont Driving Club. For myself, I first came when Aladdin Mitha was the head professional here, and I have very fond memories of especially the dinner and Aladdin's wonderful speeches. So Aladdin really, in my experience, was a great protagonist of this event, and he's now the pro at the Penn Club up in Louisville, but he's the emeritus professional here. Aladdin, what does this tournament mean to you, and can you tell us some stories about things that have happened here in the past?
Richard, you want stories all the time, don't you? No, it's been great. The tournament invitational started in 1998. At that point, there were only 2 players, literally from the club, Eben Hardy and Alan Post, who had actually played at squash anywhere outside the driving club. And when I realized that, I asked to do an invitational, and we were told not really, it's a private club. And the board finally agreed to allow me to invite 16 members to invite 16 guests. And that was our first invitational, 32 players. It went really well, and it started growing from there. And, over the years, we had people like you, all the pros coming in. The last one that I ran, the 10th annual, we had 108 players from 17 cities and 9 states, plus a bunch of Canadians. And, we had maxed out. And what Lisa and Ahmed have done is phenomenal, because after the club renovated and got the 2 doubles and things, this thing has exploded. Also interesting to note and important to note that besides the Invitational, Lisa and Ahmed run a great pro doubles tournament with all the amateur draws, which is in November. So to think that the driving club went from nobody had played outside the club other than 2 players. It has been great for the membership here. It's been great for the squash community. So it is delightful to see the energy at the club here and how squash has grown. It's a very sexy part of the Piedmont Driving Club.
Fantastic. Aladdin, thanks so much. Well, look, I've been here on a number of occasions, and I can say, hand on heart, the welcome and the hospitality at this club is fantastic. It is an absolute institution of squash in the South, and it's a linchpin for the growth of the game going forwards. So, look, I'd like to thank you all very much for spending 2 minutes with me here and to let people on Squash Radio know what's happening. And we're going to go back to the tournament now and continue to enjoy and look forward to this evening's dinner in the beautiful ballroom. Thanks very much. Lisa?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
Aladdin.
Thank you very much, Richard.
For more context on what the event means for squash in the South, Richard turns to a volunteer who serves as the president of the local district.
Richard Millman here for Squash Radio with Dr. Ham Williams, president of Southeastern Squash Racket Association. Ham has just become involved in the last few years as the president and is excited about some of the things that are going on here in the Southeast region, which is one of the largest regions in the United States squash organization. Ham, what are you excited about? What's happening? What can we do to help?
Richard, it's great to be here, and thanks for your interest in Southeastern squash. Our district is Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, and North Carolina, and while we don't have a large squash community, we have a lot of enthusiastic members. We're basically based in the Atlanta region, but there are great clubs springing up all around us. We have pros such as Tom Rumpler, Ahmed Hamza, Rob Wilkins, Andre Maurer here in Atlanta, as well as Galen Lachemiant and Connie Barnes. And of course, Richard Millman is in Chattanooga, just a stone's throw away. So we think we have a great group of people to work with, and we're really excited about getting squash moving.
Tremendous, Ham. I know that there's an underprivileged kids program here in Atlanta that's flourishing and being increasingly supported. And I know you've got some new people coming on the board as well. What are some of the things that you're hoping to see happen with both A Squash and with the board's new members?
A Plus Squash is our local Atlanta Urban Squash League, and that has really been nurtured and grown by a series of people who've donated their time and effort. And these kids are really making some great leaps in terms of their appreciation not only of squash, but also with the studying and mentoring, and we're thinking we're going to see some real results from these kids in the next few years. CSRA is having as its primary priority junior squash, not just for the urban squash, but also juniors here in Atlanta. We have several nationally ranked juniors, and we're hoping to improve our number of silver and bronze tournaments, and with any luck, we'll have a gold tournament here in the next couple of years.
Well, that's terrific. Well, Ham, thanks very much for spending 2 minutes with us here at Squash Radio, and we look forward to seeing what happens in CSRA in the next few years. It looks as though the sport is going to really grow here in the South in a way that it never has before, and I really appreciate your efforts in helping the game to grow. Thanks a lot, Ham.
Thank you, Richard. It's exciting to have you here, and keep up the good work in Chattanooga.
As you can tell, there is a great amount of pride and pleasure in not only what it takes to pull off these great events, but what they mean to the community. But as we know, it's the people who show up for these events that help bring it to life. And all around the country, there are dozens and dozens of these fantastic local events happening each year. Listen to Will talk about some of his experiences.
But what I have noticed about Will in particular is his great love and support of tournaments in every region of this country. And so I decided that I would ask him today something about his experiences and what it is that he enjoys when he comes to these many, many tournaments. We're here today at the Piedmont Driving Club Invitational in Atlanta. Will, how do you feel about these experiences and what have they meant to you?
Well, I love playing squash. I love the squash community. I love meeting people. My history with sort of local tournaments is somewhat almost accidental in that a lot of it had to do with my dad initially. My dad lived in New York, and then he moved from New York to Washington, D.C., and then he moved to Los Angeles, and then he moved to Maine. And so I'm proud of the fact that when he was in New York, I was the Heights Casino champion. And then when he moved to D.C., I had a great rivalry down there with a bunch of different people, particularly Raheel Qureshi, who is a great softball player. And eventually I won the tournaments down there at the Washington Squash and Nautilus Club and the Capitol Hill Club. And then when he moved to Los Angeles, I became the California state champion a bunch of times and got to meet some great people out in California. So that sort of started it. And then when I really decided to take squash seriously, I just wanted to play a tournament everywhere I could play a tournament. So I started looking all over the U.S. for tournaments. And I played in Florida, I played in New Hampshire, I played in Pittsburgh, I played in Minnesota, I played in Seattle, Portland. And then Tom and Hazel Jones started a U.S. pro squash tour, and I don't think they get enough credit for how much they did to really bring softball squash to the U.S. and do it well. And they had tournament stops in Atlanta, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in Houston, in Dallas, in San Antonio. And there were sort of whole new venues that opened up, Vail, Colorado, whole new venues that opened up to us. And so by going around to all these places, partly because I was one of the only Americans who was really playing that tour, I got to be friends with a lot of the local people there because I would see them at other things. And there was something that I really liked about that. And part of the only thing that makes me frustrated now is that I played, for example, in the Pittsburgh City Open a couple times, and I really enjoyed it, and I loved going down there and playing there. But then it started to conflict with another tournament that I had played because one of them shifted their weekends, and then I had to start to decide. So I get frustrated when I have to make decisions now and I can't see old friends, but it's been a big part of my life.
The key ingredients in making these great events so much fun and memorable are a blend of great squash matches, the social events, and taking time to celebrate it all. Richard takes us through a quick journey of just that.
Richard Millman here for Squash Radio with Jay Hatcher and John Woodhams have just scored a fantastic victory in the final of the doubles here at the PDC Invitational. Jay and John, well done. What do you think about this victory?
Richard, it's just an honor for me to play with John. Obviously, he's been playing on the Pro Tour, and he's been playing quite well, and to have the opportunity to play with Aaron Luque, too, is just an absolute honor. So, obviously, biggest win of my life.
I appreciate that, Jay. I enjoyed playing with you as well, and I think we stuck to the game plan. Just keep them deep, play basic squash, and go for the winners when we can.
There's a short list of people that make this happen.
The Saturday night program goes through thanking all the people who make this event possible, but also Richard takes a little time to share some remarks about how he feels in Atlanta.
I have to bring the microphone down because I'm very short. I would like to say a couple of things about Chattanooga, but before I do so, I'd like to say a couple of things about this extraordinary place. I first got involved in squash in Atlanta back in 1993-94. I was lucky enough to be the pro at the Concourse Athletic Club. From the very first moment I arrived here, I was welcomed. My dear friend Tom Rumpler, who's a fantastic student of the game, although ostensibly I was a rival of his, welcomed me, and we've shared great times talking about the sport ever since. I'd like everybody to just recognize the fact that in almost an oasis compared to the rest of the United States, Tom Rumpler's students have continued to be national class players year in, year out, from that day to this. So thank you, Tom Rumpler. You know, I believe greatly in a squash village, and I believe that a squash village has its elders and its youngsters and its middle agers and men and women and everybody together. But every village has to be founded, and this extraordinary village was founded really from some ideas from Eben Hardy, getting people to go out and visit and play elsewhere. And so in many respects, the PDC is the seed that grew into Southern squash. Without Eben's vision and without you all continuing to support the sport and this wonderful event that invites people from all over North America and elsewhere even, Southern squash would never be where it is today. So please congratulate Eben and the PDC for their vision. We're filling in the gaps. You know, for a while, Tom fought the fight along with PDC, and now we have wonderful professionals. I've been lucky enough to be appointed in Chattanooga, and I hope you'll come and join me April 21st to 23rd. But there's a new program coming online soon in Birmingham. There's all kinds of stuff happening in the South, and it's because the squash village is full of wonderful people who care about each other and make connections. I was very fortunate a number of years ago to hire a young man from Egypt. He didn't really know much about American squash and developing a program, but every time I asked him to do something, he did something, and he did it well. I've known Ahmed Hamza for a number of years, and I have been trying very hard to trick him every time we go on the court to leave the court before me. But every time I've ever tried to trick him, he's held his hand out and said, "No, Richard, you go first." He is a wonderful human being. I know you know that. And I really congratulate you on Ahmed Hamza. Ahmed and I and the squash professionals who have been fortunate to find their way to the South believe in the sport, believe in the family, believe in the village. In the next few years, I really believe that working together in this wonderful atmosphere, we can build for our children and for our children's children a great environment from which they can go on to succeed in life. I really enjoyed the final of the doubles tonight. It was just first class. Jay Hatcher and John Woodhams, you're to be congratulated. You really did a great job. Just to close, I've been friends with Alan and Mitha for a long time. His idea about social squash is my idea of social squash. So I'd like to say thank you so much to Aladdin for being the great protagonist of social squash. Long may it continue, and thank you very much to everybody.
So what the overall story of the Piedmont Driving Club Invitational reminds me of is whenever you try something new, we don't always know what the final destination will be or what the outcomes may happen. But one thing you do know is you're never going to find out unless you try. This event started out by testing the waters with 16 members inviting 16 guests as just a small seed of an event. But now this event has grown strong roots in both Atlanta and squash in the South, and it's become much more than just a permanent fixture on the calendar. It's a celebration of the sport. To close out our segment, we finish with Will sharing a memory of the tour stop on the Carlin squash calendar. These tournaments impact the players, the people that organize it all, and the local communities. But these events are also the crossroads where the larger squash community comes together to celebrate the sport we all love.
In Maine, there are a few things in the town where Bowdoin is that I really enjoy. That's Brunswick, Maine. There are a bunch of restaurants that I really like, including a real hole-in-the-wall diner place that's actually in an old railway car, sort of under a highway, and it's delicious, and those people know me. And there's a movie theater that's sort of I don't think it's actually part of Bowdoin, but it's in the town of Brunswick, so it's sort of a place where a lot of college students, but a lot of townies also go. And it sort of shows older movies and some new movies, and those people know me. So there's something fun that they're like, oh, here's an out-of-town guy who's coming back on a regular basis. And even though I'm only there, for a few days a year, but I'm there consistently for a few days a year, so they get to know me after about 4 to 5 years. And when I've been there for about 8 years, it's just a lot of fun. So I can list off some of the places that have meant a lot to me. Pittsburgh, Maine, Brunswick, Maine. I have gone, obviously, to the main spots, Philadelphia and Boston and New York, tons. But going to Chicago, going to Minnesota, playing in Albuquerque, all of those places sort of meant something really special because they were different. They were off the beaten track, and I really got a kick out of them.
Well, Will, I really appreciate your ambassadorial qualities as a squash player. It's not just that you were a competitive player that wanted to play at the very highest levels, but you're an incredible supporter of our sport. And I think the insight that you provide here and continue to encourage other people to experience really is an important part of developing our game. So I'm delighted you're here with me playing in the doubles at the PDC Invitational here in Atlanta. I know that Tom Rumpler is grateful for the times that you spend at his tournaments down here in Atlanta. And I would encourage everybody listening to get out to these tournaments, and sooner or later you will meet Will Carlin on one of these squash courts. And as a competitor myself, I want to just say I've watched Will play many, many times. The end of every match is always punctuated by a big smile and a firm handshake, and he is such a great bonus to everybody in this sport. Thanks for being with us here today, Will.
Thank you, Richard, and you know that you are my role model in a lot of this, and I mean that sincerely. You're the reason I'm down here playing. You're the reason I've gotten to a whole bunch of new places like South Carolina and others, and so thank you right back, and let's keep playing and visiting and traveling for the next number of years.
Thanks a lot, Will.
Well, folks, that's our episode, and we have Richard here, and we're going to talk through a little bit of the episode. So, Richard, this was our first collaboration on Squash Radio. What do you think?
Well, it was a lot of fun doing it. I met a lot of great people, some that I knew, some that I didn't know, and I was really pleased with how willing people were to chat.
And so all this, this is new for me. It's obviously new for you too. What did you going through this process? Like, what was surprising to you? What did you learn?
Well, I kind of knew this already, but it really enforced the fact that there's so much positive, optimistic attitude out there amongst our squash population. And I don't think I had really fully gauged how enthusiastic the group is. Not just the newer folks who are obviously excited about a new sport, but people who have been around for a long, long time. They're still absolutely loving our sport.
Well, that's great. And Richard, already we're working on another collaboration together. And why don't you tell the audience a little bit about what's in the pipeline?
Well, Connor, I didn't realize when I set about this that I was going to be going up to the Louisville Boat Club that I've never been to before, and that Jay Hatcher, who won PDC, was from Louisville Boat Club, and also Alden Metha, who was this great protagonist of the PDC Invitational when he was the pro there. He's also a pro up in Louisville, and so, in fact, I ended up playing doubles with Alden. as you know, I love the social side of squash, and I love getting together. I think a lot of the business of squash is done in dinners and over beer. I was a bit disappointed to hear that, unfortunately, the dinner at the boat club had fallen through. But then what actually happened was a whole group of people that I didn't know decided to get together for an informal dinner. And as it happened, several of the people who have been involved in Kentucky State Squash and have been board members and were just amazing people all gathered down one end of the table. And I snuck over there with my microphone, and you'll hear what happened in that conversation.
Well, that's exciting. And I think you and I both are driven from the same vision and mission. That this is just another example of how many great stories there are that people that happen all the time that we don't capture. And I think between me, you, and hopefully more people will jump on board to start capturing more of these stories. So thank you so much for doing that, and we're very excited.
My pleasure. Thank you.